righty. Alrighty. Well, welcome, folks, to Tanya Today. Tanya Today, yes. And we welcome Michael in Germany. Good afternoon. John, shalom to you in North Carolina. Natine is with us in Canada. Shalom. Eugenia, also fellow Canadian. Boker Tov in Calgary. Jackie has joined us in North Carolina. Julia is having a lovely day in Pennsylvania. Diane, welcome in Arizona. Mark is with us in Santa Rosa, California, where it's early. I don't know if it's bright yet, but it's definitely early. Liba and Davida, good morning to you in New York. Tony's with us in Costa Rica. Lisa is in the UK with us. Joseph in New Jersey, where it's sunny and cool. Deborah, also Canadian in Kitchener, welcome. Manuela is in Germany, good afternoon. Well, Clem is in Brisbane, Australia, where it's very late. Erica in Norway, shalom, welcome. Welcome back. Tim, okay, talk to you in Texas. Carlos is in Costa Rica, welcome. Leia is in Florida, good morning. Elise in Georgia. Chava in Boulder, Colorado, welcome. Ronald is in the Netherlands, or is that... you know what, I'm not certain. What's the first? Stay over. Lindsay, welcome in the UK. Andrew is in Springfield, New Jersey, joining us. Miss anybody out? We have in Instagram, we have Marlene in Miami, Rachel in South Carolina, Coy in Peru, Yenta Telebenta in New York. We have with us Michael, who's Marcy, Clubhousers. Okay. Michael in Long Island, welcome. Another Michael, shalom in... Not certain, but Suzanne is with us in Miami. Who else? Missing anybody? All right. Well, folks, today we conclude the 5th book. Tomorrow is a Yontif, Yotes Kislev. We're going to have a Fabringen online. I'm not certain yet when. I'll keep you posted. But God willing, we will have. But today, celebrate the conclusion. The 9th and final essay of Kuntres Achre, the conclusion of all the 5 books of Tanya. Interesting conclusion. Very practical. In other words, some things to do. Let's get right into it. So, The Alter Rebbe begins a quote from Vayikra, from Leviticus. Heichiach techias amisecha. You shall surely reprove your comrade, and as our sages say, even if 100 times. In other words, if you need to reprove. Therefore, says the Alter Rebbe, I cannot contain myself, cannot refrain from crying out once again in a pained voice. I plead with you out of deep compassion, have pity on your souls. Take care to be very vigilant concerning your study of Torah and the service of the heart, which is prayer, to do it with proper intent. Prayer should be, and this is what the focus is right now, should be in unison with the congregation, saying word by word together. It shouldn't be one person is in one place, another person is chatting idly. And this is the main cause of damage that comes from who's leading the service. That person who's leading the service is sort of like an abandoned thing that anybody can snatch to have the honor. Or if no one wants it, then it's given to someone who might not be appropriate. But what it should be is a fixed individual who's fit for that position of leading the service. And that should be either by lot, in other words, take a lottery who are the people who are appropriate to lead the service, to lead it, or by the consent of majority. And who is that person that is fitting to lead the service? Is someone who prays word by word at a moderate pace, aloud. Not too long, or not racing through it. And they have a duty to lead the prayers in this manner day by day. And they should assemble, these leaders of the prayer service should assemble around them people who are also praying word by word, in audible manner, not too fast, together, not rushing. And this is an age-old regulation that was done back in the day, right? And now he comes to renew and to invigorate that it should be done again. This way it will not weaken the public prayers. Gewalt, an outcry of being agonized, writes the Alter Rebbe. How long will this be an obstacle for us? That we will pray, but not pray with proper intent. Haven't we given enough reproof? And don't we see that the troubles that overtake us, may God protect and console us with redoubled support. Purify our hearts in the service of Him in truth. Strengthen and fortify your hearts, all who hope in God. That concludes the first point. Second point is that Alter Rebbe says we should complete the entire Talmud year after year. Now, not everybody can do it on their own to complete the entire Talmud, but it should be done in a community. The entire community should finish the Talmud year by year. How? By appropriating to everybody in the community a part of the Talmud, one of the tractates, and that way, when you have many people engaged in studying the Talmud, everybody doing their portion of the Talmud, so then the entire community will have finished it year after year. If there's that would be the best thing is each congregation, but if the congregation is too small, they should connect with another congregation, and that way the entire Talmud is being learned in a communal manner. Then says the Alter Rebbe that in addition to this, people should participate individually to read the whole eightfold Psalm 119 every week. Every letter is it's in order of Aleph Beis, the ABCs. The prayers from King David's Psalms, Psalm 119, and throughout the week to finish the entirety of it. to 176 verses um, to do that, and that's over and above, of course, regular psalms that a person would say. And this is important because today we don't have the strength to fast. As we learned in the third part of Tanya, fasting allows the individual to stand before God as if you were before the sin without any blemish. So when you fast, you can do that. We don't fast today. We don't have the strength. So at least, say this Tehillim. And furthermore, one should also then be very careful with the observance. Now comes another, a fourth practical thing. Be very careful in the observance of Shabbos, to learn the laws properly, because the laws are very detailed and very nuanced. And it's incumbent on every individual to be a master of the great law of Shabbos. And also, that's just in knowing the do's and the don'ts, so to speak. But also to be careful on Shabbos not to indulge in idle chatter, as is known from mystical teachings of the Kabbalah that the mitzvahs comprise of the internal and the external. In other words, there's the physical act and there's the spiritual component, which is the internal part of the mitzvah. So the external aspect of the mitzvah of Shabbos is cessation of physical activity, right? That is creative activity, just as God ceased from the activity of creating the world of heaven and earth, right? The internal dimension of Shabbos, though, is that we should connect to God through our Torah studies and our prayers. That's the internal, right? That, as it says, Shabbos Hashem Elokecha, that is a Shabbos unto the Lord your God. And the Shabbos is meant to be unto God. Meaning, what's unto God? To connect to God. So there's a physical refraining, but then there's the spiritual point behind it, and that is to connect to God through Torah study and prayer. And that is the internal aspect of remembering Zachoros Yom Shabbos, to remember Shabbos. So the external aspect of remembering Shabbos is to say Kiddush Friday night, Shabbos day, to make Kiddush, because you're remembering God. You remember God as Creator, who ceases on this day. But then the internal aspect of remembering is to cleave, to remember God by connecting to Him. That's the inner dimension. So likewise, when it comes from that's to remember. Then there's also Shomer Yom Shabbos, to guard the day of Shabbos. So you guard the day of Shabbos by not doing things that you're not supposed to do, like the 39 forbidden works. That's the external. We refrain from that, of material affairs. Then the internal aspect of that is that we don't observe merely in our actions by refraining to do work, but also in our speech. That's the internal aspect. That therefore we don't, just idle conversation, but our conversation should be a more lofty one that's connected to Torah and connection to God. That's the internal. And with that, the Alter Rebbe concludes, Zelu mazeh chulu, for one opposite the other. In other words, there's the physical, and the inverse of that is the spiritual. That there's the physical about not speaking about material affairs, right? Now, speaking business on Shabbos, not that you're doing the business, but you're even not to speak it. And then there's the internal spiritual component of it, is that what your speech is through prayer and through Torah study and, farbrengen about how to get closer and connect to Hashem. And with that, we conclude the 5th book, all 5 books of Tanya. Mazel tov. Mazel tov to each and every one of you. First of all, we're here to conclude. We're here to celebrate a magnificent accomplishment, a whole year's study of Tanya, and it comes to a very interesting conclusion and a very practical observances that the Alter Rebbe is telling us. Firstly, about prayer, and make sure that the prayer that we do day in, day out, speaking about the morning service in particular, should be with intent, right? And be led by a person who can create the communal sense of connection through prayer. That it should be not just we're saying words. And then speaking about Torah study and not Hasidic or mystical teachings of Tanya, but studying the Talmud. And that we have a collective whole completion of it when everybody of a community takes a certain tractate, and then all together you conclude the entire Talmud, which is an amazing thing. And then there is saying Psalm 119 throughout the entire week. And then there is the idea of observance of Shabbos. We need to learn the laws in order that we can observe it appropriately because of the nuance in the law. And then in that law itself, there is the external expression of it and the internal. The external is the action that's involved, right? So in guarding and observing Shabbos, there's the action of guarding and heeding not to do the physical labor. Then there's the spiritual part of that you're not speaking even about it. And what you put your speech into is something that brings you to connect to God, to cleave to God. And the same thing is in the remembering of Shabbos. Remembering of Shabbos, you can make it through, making Kiddush, having Challah, and, all of the physical things that bring a remembrance. And at the same time, we need the spiritual part of it, which means to remember that Shabbos is about a day of connecting to God. So very practical things that we can bring into our lives as a conclusion of Sefer Shel Tanya, the 5 books of Tanya. So again, a mazel tov to everybody. We should, in today's Hayom Yom, that we should be Mekabel, that Yutes Kislev. Today is the 18th of Kislev. Tonight will be the 19th of Kislev, the day that the Alter Rebbe was released from prison in 1798. He was in prison for 53 days. 53 chapters is the first part of Tanya. And released, as we'll bring more about in the next couple of days. I haven't solidified my schedule yet. But if people can actually tell me what's better is during the day, afternoon, or evening to make the Fabrengen. So if you can either put it up here on the chat and let me know what works best. It'll be most likely tomorrow evening, or it could be during the day. Again, just want to hear from people what they say. Evening, evening, evening. Okay, I was just looking at different people what they're saying. And over here, do we have? Well, this is afternoon, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. Stop me anytime. Okay. All right, beautiful. All right. All right, folks. Rambam is coming up. Also, Torah studies. I'm not certain if it's going to be tonight or tomorrow. I have to get back because, again, my schedule, something came up that I need to confirm. But I will keep you posted. Okay. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you from Chabad Zich and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Mazel Tov to everybody. And I'm very much moved by your dedication. You know, I'm a rabbi who, you know, I dedicate myself to this. This is what my calling. But that you dedicate yourselves. So many of you come literally every day. Some of you come, you know, whatever, many times. But such dedication. I'm moved and inspired. Have a wonderful day, and we should all be written and sealed for a good year of studying Chassidus together. Looking forward. God bless you all. And a good yontif. Tonight starts that a yontif.